Hi everyone. Welcome to day 7, Wild Woman Emerging. This is our last day together in this challenge. I can't quite believe it's over. And I'm feeling like the hardest thing about these challenges, these big heart opening weekend retreats or what have you, is that without the momentum of the group and the daily lessons, and the deadlines, it can be very difficult to maintain all the expansion we've experienced in the 7 days. With every expansion, there is bound to be some contraction. It's a natural action and reaction to change because fear and clouded thinking starts to take over. But as you'll see, or may have already seen in today's lesson, there's a new way we can keep the love and the lessons flowing if you feel the same way. I won't go into it here, but I'm really excited to offer a new way to keep going on this journey with you so that you can root into the changes you've made. At the very heart of it all, your doubts are going to come from your little, so we'll be taking her along. I hope that my husband's watching a movie and I just didn't have the heart because I've been working all weekend and he doesn't get a chance to watch too much TV when I'm working. So I'm hoping that all of a sudden everything's not going to start blowing up on screen and all that kind of stuff because, of course, he's a man and he's watching a Sylvester Stallone movie. So anyway, hopefully you can't hear it. I can hear it, but hopefully you can. So I want to talk about, first of all, in today's live journaling circle, we'll be answering the same questions as the ones that I've put in the email, but I want to share about my vision of what a wild woman is for me. My wild woman is abroad. Do you know this term? Are you familiar with it? In the 1930s and 40s, there were a lot of strong women in Hollywood films. You know, women like Katharine Hepburn, Bette Davis, and Joan Crawford. Those are the big ones that come to my mind. Hopefully you know who I'm talking about, but if you don't, do yourself a favor and Google them. They were the original power women of Hollywood, and they were magnificent and fiercely empowered in a time when women had just barely won the right to vote. I guess the Great Depression brought out the strength of women, and then World War II gave them the lead because they were needed to work when all the men went off to war. Anyway, I've been steered towards being abroad since I was a young child, and my wild woman is both abroad and a crone, or the matriarch as I prefer to call her. In goddess belief, she can appear as the maiden before she becomes fertile, the mother, the fertile years, or the matriarch or crone, which is the postmenopausal years. So I like matriarch because it's the MMM and it's easier for me to remember. My next door neighbor, Mrs. Booth, is my example of the matriarch wild woman role I'm stepping into. She did so much as a young woman. She was a teacher in the time when if you got married, you had to quit your job because you weren't allowed to work. So she kept her job for quite a long time. She was a teacher, as I said. She traveled. I remember her telling me stories of skiing on Grouse Mountain, which is in Vancouver where I'm from, with friends, and they actually built their own cabins on the mountain, skiing down the hill, then hiking back up. She married only at age 35, which was very old for a woman to marry in the 1940s. When I knew her, she was already the matriarch crone. She and her husband never had children. They had several miscarriages, which was her lifelong sadness, as I remember, but she took it very well. They never had children, so they took me on as their grandchild, And I remember when I was born in 1961, we moved to our new house in 1962 next door to them. And there was always this story about how she carried me over. I had just come out of the bath and she carried me over naked in a towel and showed me to her husband Fred, and that was the end of her. That was the beginning of her being my grandmother. But I loved them. I reveled in the attention and loved spending time with them. Hazel, as she was named, was quite the looker in her days, and she had a closet full of fur coats, high heels, fancy dresses, and an amazing jewelry box filled with costume jewelry. And she let me play with it all. I remember her fondly in the summer with her floppy sun hat on, wearing gardening gloves, billowing shorts that highlighted her scrawny legs, and a halter top that didn't even cover her belly. She didn't actually give a flying fuck what anyone in the neighborhood thought about her and how she looked as she worked in her garden. She was and always will be gorgeous to me. This is the closest thing I could find that makes me think of her and her summer gardening outfit. She died when I was 33 and she was in her late 80s. Magnificent woman. And this is the only picture I have of her. She's at least in her late 70s here, because I think this was my 19th birthday. And the other woman in the picture is my grandmother, who I'm pretty sure didn't really approve of who she was, because my grandmother was quite proper. I used to go over to her house and she would paint my toenails with clear polish, flecked with silver or gold sparkles in it. And when I would go over for supper, I remember being served shrimps from martini glasses with cocktail sauce in the middle. She and her husband Fred treated me like a princess, and as I got older and listened to her stories, I was amazed at all she'd done with her life. So that's who I want to be. Someone who does what she wants, when she wants, without caring what people think of her. She's her own woman. Of course, I'm not her, but I will take the qualities about her I loved and meld them with my own. I'll likely be a lady who wears bright colors with multiple patterns and flowy, gauzy clothing that makes me feel good. It's kind of, I could definitely see myself doing that. Maybe not so much about the hats, though, because I don't really like hats on myself. There's more and more coming to me about the matriarch crone as I get older, but I've still got plenty of time. I've only just begun the menopause years. So far, I'm loving it, and I'm excited to see who I will become as the years give me more experience and less regret and worry. So that's it for this lesson and for this challenge. I hope to see you in the live journaling circle today. Let's keep the conversation and sharing going, even if you don't come. Thank you so much for sharing so much of yourself and for your willingness to keep growing. It's an honor to be with you for any part of your journey. Take care of yourself, wild woman, and keep moving forward with the courage and grace you've shown in this 7-day Wild Woman Journaling Challenge. See you in the group. Thanks for being here.